Hello and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for October of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month. And by the way, Virgo, if you missed your birthday reading this year, it's not too late to benefit from a reading of your solar return birthday chart. It tells you all about the year to come and how to handle it for the best results. You'll find a link for that in the description below. Well, October 10th, we have a rather momentous transit, which happens just once a year, and that is Pluto changing direction. Pluto begins the month retrograde, as you can see right there, and then pivots direct between October 10th and 11th, depending on your time zone. Pluto has been traveling through Capricorn for 15 years and will be finishing out its sojourn in Capricorn by the end of 2023. And in January of 2024, Pluto moves on into Aquarius, there to stay until 2043, which is about 20 years. Pluto is the slowest thing in our skies. It takes a very long time passing through a sign. And Pluto brings us the really, really deep and heavy experiences of transformation, metamorphosis, death, and rebirth, and has been doing so in the realm of Capricorn for this 15-year period. That means that we have been transforming our experience of ourselves as an authority. Authority figures, a very Capricorn thing. We've been transforming our careers. We've been transforming in our careers. We've been transforming our whole idea of what authority is, like who is the boss of me? And should they be the boss of me? Maybe when I transform, I just feel like that is so not real for me anymore. And so it's been an intense 15 years, and it's coming to a close this year. When Pluto turns direct after he's been retrograde, if you are involved in a deep Plutonian transformative process this year, you will find that it is beginning to draw to a close, that you're beginning to get some resolution on it. You're beginning to finish it out. And that can feel like such a relief because Pluto transits are super heavy. And paying attention to, well, noticing that you're in a process and that processes are time-bound. The Pluto process of transformation is not linear. In fact, it feels eternal while you're in it, which really sucks because it's uncomfortable and you find yourself staring down at the basement of your soul to see what's wriggling there underneath that log. But coming to closure is really, really good. And being aware that this is a process that is, if not linear, then organic, and that it will draw to a natural close by the end of the year. So sometimes that is just what we need to hear in order to feel better about something, that's been really difficult. I want to talk now about Juno, much lighter topic. Here's Juno, and she starts the month in the sign of Leo here in your 12th house. And Juno is an asteroid goddess to do with marriage, committed relationship, social life, and networking. She's like the queen bee. In mythology, she was known as the queen of heaven. And yet here she is in a house of retreat, surrender, and departure from the physical world. This is a house of spirituality, dreams, and imagination, and art. So the very best thing that you can do while Juno is finishing out your 12th house in the first half of the month is to go on retreat with your partner. Don't surrender to your partner, but surrender with your partner to something greater than both of you. And this can be like a spiritual practice, a spiritual experience, and you can find that yourself communing so much more deeply with your partner and feeling a sense of beautiful spiritual merging. About halfway through the month, on the 17th, Juno moves on into your first house. And you may find whenever a planet is in your first house, you want to embody and perform that principle. You want to be and model that principle. So Juno in the first house, you might find yourself wanting to show off your marriage. If you feel happy and content in your marriage, you may want to be more social with your partner while Juno is in the first house. Now, if your relationship embarrasses you or makes you feel really exposed to be seen with your partner, then you wouldn't want to go out during this transit. But you might feel itchy, like, why can't I go out with my partner? And that just makes, any embarrassment that you feel just feel worse. So clearing that stuff up with a frank, honest conversation between you and your partner can put you back in a place where you're happy to go out and be seen as part of the power couple that you are. And that can be just delightful as long as all of the causes for embarrassment are moved out of the way. Juno is going to continue in this house all the way through November. Now, Ceres spends the whole month in Scorpio, traveling along through your third house. And this is a really uncomfortable spot for Ceres because Ceres is very uncomfortable in both Scorpio and the third house. It's uncomfortable in Scorpio because Scorpio is opposite to its own nature. Scorpio is the sign opposite to Ceres' own sign of Taurus. And so this is like Ceres is in alien territory. Ceres loves to be solid and stable and consistent and have regular habits for health and eat in sensible, grounded ways and to feel good in her belly and in her body. And Scorpio is just so passionate and intense and emotionally overbearing that Ceres can feel really emotionally wrung out while in Scorpio. Now, Ceres also is uncomfortable in the third house because the third house is very cerebral. And so Ceres can feel like, oh, I'm trying to do all these practical things, but it's just a theory. It's not an actuality. And so while you may find that you're thinking up all these plans for ways that you could eat that would probably make a lot of sense, but which really are more about, quantification of calories and measuring of waistlines and all forms of data that you can acquire. And you may find that this takes your attention away from simply and sensibly being in your body and asking your body, what do I need to eat? What nutrition do I need? Am I craving spinach? Actually, I don't really want that chocolate ice cream. My body is crying out for green vegetables. Being in touch with your body is a wonderful thing. And even with Ceres in Scorpio, you could transform to be more in your body. So that can really be a great benefit. Hey, Julia, what's up with Venus, Mars, and Mercury this month for all the Virgos of the world?
Well, hey there, Virgo. We'll start with Venus. That's the love planet. Wherever we have Venus is where we find pleasure that month. And Venus starts the month in the 12th house for the first 8 days, which means you're going to find pleasure kind of retreating from the world, being on your own some. If you have a relationship, you might want to go on some type of retreat, some type of getaway with your partner, maybe in the wilderness, maybe where you feel like you're just kind of away from the world, because the 12th house is the house of isolated places. Now on October 8th, Venus enters your first house. It's going to be there for the rest of the month. And this is a great transit for doing something to make yourself look even better than you already do.
Mm-hmm.
So with the first house is the house of self. And when Venus comes in here, if you do something, if you make a change to your appearance, your hair, you get a new tattoo, you go out shopping for a new outfit, you can really come off looking much better, much more beautiful than usual and even more charming than usual. So this is also a wonderful transit if you're single, to get out there and meet someone new as well. Now, Mars, the planet of action and activity, starts the month in your second house of money. With Mars in the second house, you might be feeling a little bit impatient about money or impatient about something that you want to buy, maybe even a bit impulsive with money, maybe even having a fight over money with Mars in the second house. But a good use of this transit is putting a lot of effort and work into making more money so that you can enjoy the things that you love. On October 11th, Mars moves into the third house. This is the house of communication. It also rules your siblings, your neighborhood, and neighbors. So with Mars in the third house, this can be a time where you have more flare-ups with your siblings or your neighbors than usual. Mars in the third can also mean that you're a lot more direct with how you communicate, maybe even a little more aggressive with how you communicate. However, since Venus is in your first house all month, you are very extra charming right now, so that's probably going to mitigate that somewhat. But Mars in the third house can be a really great transit if you have to get a lot of writing done, if you're really pushing yourself to learn something new. This is also a house of learning as well. If you're feeling really driven to acquire some new knowledge, it's a fabulous use for this transit. And also just get out there, go on a weekend trip somewhere with Mars in the third, and that'll help use the energy much more constructively. And then finally, Mercury, the planet that represents your mind, also is direct this month and gaining speed like Venus. And it begins in your first house of self. So with Mercury in the first, for the first few days of the month, you can articulate yourself very well. You can really have your words and your intelligence come across to other people. So really good for something like a job interview. Then by October 4th, Mercury enters your second house. So a lot of focus on the second house for you this month with Mars also in there. Mercury in the second is usually means that you're thinking a lot about money, thinking a lot about your own security in life, which in our modern day is money. Maybe you're strategizing about getting your finances organized. Maybe you're thinking about expanding your business. Maybe there's something you need to sell now with Mercury in the second house. Now, interestingly enough, on October 19th, Mercury conjoins the Sun directly, and we call that Greater Epiphany Day. It's a time of insights and revelations. And in the second house, you could have some insights into money in your life. Maybe you're having an aha moment about maybe it's time to sell something finally, get rid of your car. Maybe it's, becoming much more of a financial burden than what you need. Or maybe you're having a revelation about something you need to buy. But this is going to be a very interesting date to keep track of in terms of how maybe you could make more money or, acquire or lose more of the things in your life to get you on a better track and feeling more satisfied with the material things in your life.
Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fun, but they don't go very deep, really. If you want depth and personal clues, you'll want to join our monthly live workshop where you can talk with a real astrologer about your own chart. This month's topic is undergoing Pluto transformations with power and grace. Because Pluto transits feel like a long, dark night of the soul, and psychological death and rebirth is hard for all of us. In the workshop, I'll explain how to navigate these biggest of all life's changes smoothly. This workshop is expressly for our Demigod Patreon subscribers who pay only $15 a month for access to live events like this one. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video. Well, eclipse season is upon us. This happens about every 6 months. Eclipses come in pairs or triples or singles occasionally, but usually pairs at 6-month intervals. And here we have a new moon solar eclipse happening in Libra right here in your second house. As Julia said, really lighting up that second house this month with lots of activity here in this very practical realm of food, body, and money. A solar eclipse is a physical experience, which is to say, during a solar eclipse, we are forced to look at our shadow, and that's the nature of eclipses in general, but we're forced to look at our shadow through how we behave, through the actions that we take, through stuff that we do. Now, this being in your second house of food, body, money, and security, you may find that you experience this eclipse through some behavior, some financial behavior that shows some aspect of your shadow. Now, this particular eclipse being in Libra, we've named it Stop Placating, Honesty Heals, because this moon and sun together being in Libra, there is such a strong theme of like niceness, sweetness, kindness, but where it's all just a little bit too saccharine and sticky sweet. And that's because the South Node is here too. An eclipse that happens near the South Node is a releasing eclipse. And so this one is all about becoming aware of behaviors that you have that are just like sickly sweet, that are, where you're letting yourself get run over like a doormat, where you're just people pleasing way too much, where you're being too much of a placater. And this does land in your second house. So it may be that you just have a great deal of difficulty around managing your own physical security, physical safety, or eating, or money. And so any of those things could gather around this eclipse and show up under the umbrella of these themes. However, honesty heals, and that's a reflection of the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries over here in your 8th house. And so being surgically honest, going direct and to the point, can actually bring a healing that will help you to drop the ballast and to let go of those people-pleasing behaviors that really aren't serving you anymore. Now, this month's second moon is also an eclipse. It's coming up 2 weeks later on the 28th. And this one is a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus, which lands right here in your 9th house. This is a house of growth and expansion. It's a house of travel and opportunity. I like to think of this as the house of the seeker, where we discover resilience by expanding our worldview to contain and include and account for even the most difficult and painful of human experiences. Now, this moon opposes the sun, which is in Scorpio, and the sun is still with the South Node, while the moon is closer to the North Node. And the sun lands in your 3rd house, which is a house of communication, ideas, thoughts, and also your immediate environment, such as neighbors, neighborhood, siblings, housemates, that sort of, immediate environment. So this one we're calling Release Ties, Lean into Independence. And this is an eclipse that has actually a ton of harmony built into it. This moon has a lovely sextile to Vesta. It connects with Saturn, with Juno, and there's just a ton of sweetness here, making this eclipse not as difficult an experience as an eclipse usually would be. Now, I mentioned before that eclipses show us our shadow, which they do. This particular one shows us the shadow side of how we have been codependently wrapped up with others, probably family, probably emotionally and financially tied to family in ways that have just started to feel, I could say restricting, I could say toxic. It's a matter of degree in your own situation. This moon, however, is pulling away from all of that in a very practical sense, is pulling and leaning into the feeling of financial independence and how very good that can feel. Now, because there's so much harmony in this moon coming from Vesta and Juno and Saturn, it can be a situation where you're pulling away from family, you're declaring your financial independence, you're moving on into a whole new world of self-sufficiency, but it doesn't have to be a big fat FU. It doesn't have to be a, giant scissors cutting the umbilical cord situation. It can be very harmonious and something that everybody in the situation is ready for. And it can feel very free and very liberating on account of this moon landing in your 9th house. Oh, I said moon landing. A giant step for you, not just mankind, but you. towards financial independence, autonomy, and, managing it on your own. And that just can feel tremendous. So the last thing I want to talk about is the seasonal change as the sun enters Scorpio. It starts the month here at the end of Libra in your second house. And I talked about that last month. So on the 23rd, it moves on into your third house. And this is really just a reflection of how these planets migrate over the course of the month from and through your second house and off into your third. And in your second house, those themes of food, body, and money are so important for you to pay attention to. But when this sun and other planets begin to cluster in your third house, there is a very strong preoccupation with communication instead, with learning, with the management of information and data inside your own mind. How are you conversing with other people? Are you listening as well as speaking? Are you being overly pushy or controlling or persuasive in your communication? Are you feeling the ebb and flow of communication as a dialogue between you and the other person? Are you relentlessly searching out information? That can be very Scorpio in the third house. So wherever the sun goes, we want to shine the sunlight of our high quality attention so that things can thrive and flourish there. And the third house being a house of communication, pay attention to your communication and ask yourself how it's going. Are your conversations characterized by give and take? Do you listen to the other person? Do you also speak fully? Do your communications turn into an opportunity to really get to know another person better? Are you able to be vulnerable in your communication? These are really great things to pay attention to while the sun is moving through this house. And the sun will be in this house for about 30 days. And so this is just such a great time to attend to your communication and let your radiant light shine forth through it for these 30 days.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.